My girls are sending me off to see the Dallas Cowboys, pulling out in a few minutes all the way down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte Cowboys versus the Panthers. But whooping the day.
There's still a lot of questions that still remain here. The biggest one that we have is about what led Butcher to kill this couple that he was related to. We've been pushing the sheriff's deputies involved in this case for answers, and we'll continue to bring you updates.
A somber moment beyond what words can describe. For me, certainly for the two girls that are left behind, for our church and churches. But to say the least, it has been the talk of the town.
Senior pastor of Cool Spring Missionary Baptist Church in Gaston, Dr. Travis T.
Carolyn and Michael Powell were pillars in their community, both beloved members of their church and known for their unwavering faith, kindness, and mutual support. Michael, or Mac, as his friends and family affectionately called him, was a constant presence in the church choir, his rich voice filling the sanctuary each Sunday as he led hymns with a quiet, humble dignity. Carolyn, with her sharp wit and radiant love for her husband, was always by his side, her eyes filled with admiration and pride as she watched him sing. Together they embodied a sense of harmony, not just in their marriage, but within their community as well. They were the kind of couple that people admired, strong in their faith, kind to everyone they met, and always willing to lend a hand or share a kind word. It was clear to anyone who saw them that they were a true partnership, a couple who supported each other unconditionally, and they were well respected by all who knew them. But then, without warning, a series of events would unfold that would send shockwaves through their town, leaving everyone struggling to make sense of the tragedy that had befallen such a beloved couple. At approximately 10:30 on the night of November 7th, Northampton County Sheriff's deputies were called to a residence just outside of Gaston in response to reports of a shooting. Upon arrival, they discovered an adult female and an adult male, both unresponsive, lying in the front yard of the home.
Sheriff's deputies in Northampton County are investigating the murders of an elderly couple. Investigators say someone found the man and woman in the front yard of their home in Gadsden about 10:30 last night. Both were in their early 70s. Deputies say they were both shot in the head.
The victims of this tragic crime were identified as 70-year-old Carolyn Powell and her 72-year-old husband, Michael Powell, both of whom were found dead at the scene from gunshot wounds to the head, fired at point-blank range. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the shooting was not a random act of violence. Deputies began to piece together the events of that night, but the more they uncovered, the more the tragedy deepened. The Powells had always been a symbol of love and stability for everyone who knew them. What could have led to this devastating moment? And most urgently, who was responsible for taking their lives? Deputies quickly determined that the suspect had stolen the couple's truck and fled the scene. Authorities later located the stolen vehicle at a local hotel in Roanoke Rapids. Within just a few hours, law enforcement from Northampton County, Halifax County, and the Roanoke Rapids Police Department worked together to capture and arrest the couple's own nephew, 35-year-old Riverus Butcher. Sheriff Jack Smith issued a statement expressing his appreciation for the swift response from deputies and detectives. I would like to commend the immediate response, investigation, and efforts of our deputies and detectives. My thoughts, prayers, and heartfelt sincerity go out to the family of the victims during this tragic time.
Carolyn and Michael Powell have a reputation for being beloved throughout the entire community, serving their community in many ways. In fact, people tell me that they never missed a service here at their church outside Gaston.
It's a terrible situation. Anybody that would go out and take two individual lives, much less two individuals in their 70s who's lived a prosperous life, who, to my understanding, has never caused any harm with anyone, to go out and take their life is brutal. It's a terrible crime in this county.
The news left family members, friends, and the local community in utter shock and disbelief. The Powells were beloved figures, known for their kindness and deep ties to the community, making the brutal crime all the more incomprehensible. Those close to the family were left grappling with the question, how could someone, especially a relative, commit such an unthinkable act against a couple who were loved and respected by so many? The senselessness of the crime left everyone questioning what could have driven someone to harm them in such a brutal way. Reverend Travis Judkins, senior pastor of Cool Spring Missionary Baptist Church, shared that the congregation gathered on Sunday to remember Carolyn and Michael Powell for their decades of dedication to both the church and the community. The couple had been active members of the church for over 50 years. They had a remarkable ability to change the atmosphere of any room they entered, often without saying much, but their presence alone had a positive and uplifting impact. He also provided some insight into the suspect, revealing that he had struggled with mental health issues for years. He had hoped that something could have been done much earlier to address the situation, as he believed that with proper intervention, this tragedy might have been prevented.
They brought a presence.
Reverend Travis Judkins says you'd always know when the Powells were around.
They had the ability that oftentimes entering a room, although not saying much, they could change the atmosphere of that room for the better.
For 50-some years, Carolyn and Michael attended church here.
That was her seat right there. I think you perhaps can still see the scuff marks from her back imprinted in the upholstery.
Carolyn sat here on the pew, while you'd find Michael with the choir every Wednesday and Sunday.
The love was immense, and it gave to this world and this generation the certainty that true love still exists between two people.
Reverend Judkins tells us he got the call that they were found dead on Thursday, both shot in the head in their front yard on Moncure Street, at the same house he'd been to many times. One day later, this man, 35-year-old Rivaris Butcher, was arrested for their deaths and for stealing their car. The Northampton County Sheriff's Office tells us he was a member of Powell's family, but the relation is still unclear. Judkins says this Sunday, the congregation honored the Powells, feeling their presence even without them in the room. What is it like to look at that empty pew and know that they will never sit there again?
To look at this place in which she sat, and truly only she sat, and this past Sunday it was occupied by some others, it did not seem right.
35-year-old Rivaris Butcher was charged with 1 count of felony larceny of a motor vehicle and 2 counts of first-degree murder. He remains in custody with no bond set for the murder charges, but a secured bond of $35,000 has been issued for the larceny charge. Northampton County investigators, along with local law enforcement, continue to probe the circumstances surrounding the murders, with a particular focus on uncovering the motive behind the tragic crime. The tragic deaths of Michael and Carolyn Powell highlight the critical need for early intervention in mental health issues. The suspect's long history of untreated mental illness underscores the importance of recognizing warning signs and offering support before situations escalate. The story also points to the harmful effects of the stigma surrounding mental health, which can prevent individuals from seeking the help they need. It calls attention to the lack of adequate mental health resources and the profound impact untreated conditions can have on families and communities. Ultimately, the tragedy emphasizes the need for compassion, understanding, and more effective support systems to prevent similar events in the future. Rest in peace, Michael and Carolyn Powell.